What is going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer from blueandgold.com with our football analyst, Mike Goolsby. He needs no introduction, but I'll give him a quick one. Former Notre Dame linebacker and captain. That's a pretty legit star of the Tyrone Willingham era. Dare I say? Is that fine? Is that fine to say, Mike?
You said it. There's no retracting it. Hey,
Mr.
Mike,
Pick Six himself.
Did you see this Manti Te'o documentary yet?
It's on my to-do list. My wife doesn't know anything about this story, so I'm excited to watch it with her. Probably this weekend.
I didn't know much about it either. I mean, I knew the general premise, but I watched the first episode, and Jack Swarbrick's talking about how after the 90s Notre Dame football program somewhat lost its way, and there was a clip of us playing BYU, and your boy got a cameo. So that was kind of fun. So, yeah, if you're going to say a star of the Willingham era, it just jogged my memory to, being a highlight of of a darker era of Notre Dame football.
So, hey, man, it's still an era of Notre Dame football, and my boy's on Netflix. So,
hey, dude, I want a royalty check. You right?
I'm gonna get Mike, dude. If you were in the NIL era, what company would you want to be paying you?
Oh shoot, back then, probably Burger King. Whoever makes Hamburger Helper, is that Stouffer's Hamburger Helper? Ate a lot of Hamburger Helper back in the day in college.
Dream big, Goolsby.
You know, Chevy trucks would be yeah.
There you go.
Skull Mint. Whoever makes Skull. So yeah, good times. Good to be here with you, buddy.
Yeah,
been too long.
Yeah. We do monthly in the off season. So I think it was about 6 weeks since we had Goolsby on last, and we still good for you guys. Got to understand, Goolsby's a very busy man. I'm a busy man. So the most we talk is this show. So Goolsby, we're still on for Sunday nights.
And we've still yet to meet, Mike. We were both in South Bend for the spring game, just couldn't work it out. You couldn't break away from the Angeli family to come have a beer with your buddy, but it's fine. There's always next year. Yeah, I'm still good. I think, I would prefer a day to watch the game and process it, but I think folks are looking for that immediate post-game show. The first one, after the Ohio State game, I'll be in Montana on vacation, so I'll have to figure something else. I'll figure something out. Might be coming to you from the middle of the woods, but we'll make it right.
Yeah, we'll get you on either way to discuss it. Yeah, we got a great team of blue and gold between Goolsby and Tim Hyde with our football analysts do such a great job. Pop on a few questions real quick. Joey says, "What will Goolsby and Singer be drinking tonight?" I've got one drink I'm proud of, and then one drink just that I have. Two Tigers. Shout out to
so aggressive
there. What's that, Mike?
So aggressive, and I'm here for it. And what do you? So what are you chasing that with, Mike?
I'll show the backside of it. Sorry, the podcast audience, but yeah, it's just the back of it. That's all. Dude, I don't know. That's what my wife gets. It's a Bud Light Seltzer cocktail outward lime margarita. We don't have any beers right now. So.
Yeah. I'm going with a Kugel's Summer Shandy.
That's my father-in-law's favorite beer. Every time I go over there, I make sure not to grab one because it's his favorite. So.
Yeah, they're not bad.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
They're awesome. John says someone got a haircut. Both of us
did. Thanks for noticing, John.
John just saw me yesterday, I'm sure, on our live show, and I was like, "Man, I need a haircut." I wanted to see what I look like.
Getting rid of that goatee.
So I want to see what I look like with just a mustache. So I'm going to shave that tomorrow. I figured I wouldn't do that today, just in case. Just in case we had any children watching the show and didn't want to scare them. All right, Mike. Let's start with some maybe not so good news. Kind of one of these things that Goolsby, you're a pundit now, man. People want your reaction to things, and that's what we're going to give them. So Keon Keeley, 5-star edge in the 2023 class, committed to the Irish. over the big three Florida schools last summer. I don't think he wasn't really ranked at that point. Commits to Notre Dame, huge junior season with 16 and a half sacks, 34 and a half TFLs, playing half of games a lot of times because they're blowing teams out. Gets all the offers under the sun, visits Florida a couple times, Ohio State at least once, Bama a couple times, including at the end of July. And then Keon Keeley goes ahead and announces his decommitments on August 17th. So, Mr. Goolsby, your reaction here to Notre Dame losing this player?
Yeah, it's a little upsetting. He's a real dominant player. My initial thought is I don't blame the kid, right? He has every right in the world to go wherever he wants. I think with him being down in Florida and South Bend being where it is, I think in the length of time, Mike, that he had been committed, committing before his junior year, and there's so many dominant programs that are able to buzz his tower on a more frequent basis, like a Bama, like a Georgia, like a Florida. It was kind of a long shot to begin with, so I don't blame the kid. On the plus side, Mike, he was the crown jewel of the class that had, one of our first commitments, if not the first commitment. So I think that he was almost committed long enough to influence the rest of the class, if that makes sense. Okay. So it's not as if, kids that were kind of following suit and committing to Notre Dame are going to jump off board as well. It's just recruiting's a dirty game, man, and the NIL makes it even filthier. Again, going back to this Manti Te'o thing, it's like, oh, okay, you're going to be the next great defensive lineman from Alabama. I don't know. Well, you didn't see this bit in the show, but like he's like, well, because Manti wanted to go to USC, right? And his uncle or somebody was like, you're going to be the next great Polynesian player, Ray Malaluga, Troy Polamalu, etc. He's like, I always thought you'd be the first Manti Te'o at a school like Notre Dame. So it's just more of the same at Alabama with Keon Keeley. I think a kid as dominant as he is could have became a true star at a program like a Notre Dame. So it's unfortunate. I hope that Coach Freeman stays in the race. But yeah, it's unfortunate. But I don't blame the kid. I mean, having been somewhat of a high-profile recruit myself, and these kids get torn 1,000 different directions, it's hard, man. It's hard. If anything, I think these coaches are so anxious to get a commitment that they almost force it somewhat prematurely, right? And to keep a kid on board for 24 months is difficult. So I don't blame them.
Yeah. What do you say to the Notre Dame fan who is saying right now, well, why commit in the first place if you're just going to decommit? You're supposed to be a man of your word. What do you say to that Notre Dame fan?
You've never been in that kid's shoes. You've never been in that kid's shoes, and he might have been. I mean, inevitably there's pressure if he's on a particular visit or whatever. I mean, those coaches will. I mean, when I committed to Notre Dame, I was cornered. I mean, I was literally physically cornered by 3 coaches. I was like, I commit, and it's almost more difficult to decommit in a way. So, right. Yeah, there should be no ill will against the kid. There just shouldn't be. For as high profile as he is, you had to see this coming. The timing of it's interesting. I wish that he would have maybe given Coach Freeman a chance to play the season out or get a couple games into the season so he could get a taste of what the defense and what the Freeman era might look like. That's a little bit disappointing, but no, folks shouldn't hold it against the kid.
I think really shouldn't. Yeah, I think part of the decommitment timing is just that he wanted to take official visits, and Notre Dame has a strong stance against it, and that's not an uncommon thing for colleges to say. If you are committed here and you want to take official visits elsewhere, we see you as a decommitted player. So I don't know, Mike. It kind of just sped up the timeline. So he wanted to officially visit Ohio State for the Notre Dame game, And I think that if Keon Keeley went ahead and decided, well, I'm going to decommit based on your rule, I think if Notre Dame didn't have the rule in place, that's a player who would decommit. I think he just decided to do it now rather than 4 months from now. Like, look at Amorion Walker last year. Like, Notre Dame is avoiding that situation. I mean, does that make sense, people? Like, if he decided to decommit now, then you know he was going to decommit later if this rule wasn't in place. Does that make sense, Mike?
Sure, but that's, and I don't know what like a school like Alabama's policy is, internal policy in terms of if X kid commits, he's no longer allowed to take official visits or the coaching staff. So Notre Dame in this instance, and it could be any other program as well, Mike, but Notre Dame in this instance, they want their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
So we want an early commitment when a kid's 15, 16 years old. Oh, and by the way, you're grounded for the next 2 years, right? So
they can take unofficials. That's fine. Unofficials are okay. It's the officials. And
I don't know. I as somebody that, as Mike, as somebody that's lived through this recruiting process, let's get into this shit, right? As somebody that's like lived this recruiting process and was largely caught off guard by it all, like the early signing day isn't for the kids. It's all of this stuff, all of these recruiting rules. It's to serve the college coaches so that they can speed everything up. So like we got an early signing day so that they can move on to the next recruiting class and get a several month head start on that. That's not for a kid. That's for the college coaches. And sure, they can enroll early in the spring and all that. But I mean, back in my era, 20 years ago, that'd have been unheard of, dude. So much of this stuff is because of the coaches. I'm adamant. I think that NIL was born out of the coaches' salaries. You've got coaches making $7-8 million a year, and kids are having to make hamburger helper like your boy over here. It was too lopsided. So the natural response was, okay, we're going to open up a transfer portal. We're going to let kids make money, and now the wheels are off. Yeah. None of that would have happened had that coaching salary not continue to creep up. And I'm a capitalist too, but it was it started to get a little bit absurd. So, coaches got to be careful what they wish for in terms of, we want this early commitment, and they're trying to continually always speed everything up so they can move on to the next round. And I'm not a fan of that.
Speaking of wishing, Mike, let's go ahead and move along to Mike Goolsby's offensive.
A true professional, bro. True professional you are.
Folks, make sure you go ahead and hit the thumbs up on this video, and you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. If you have not done so yet, we recently hit 17,000 followers, and now we're at like 17.1. So that's crazy. When I started kind of getting the wheels going on this whole YouTube thing, it's like March of 2020.
Crazy.
Or February, I think we had like 2,000 subscribers. And, a little over year and a half or 2.5 years later, we're almost at, just getting over 17,000. So it's awesome, and couldn't do it without you guys. I see some questions popping up. I'm saving them on my back end to maybe get through them later in the show, but to guarantee that your question gets answered, drop a super chat, and Mr. Goolsby, we'll get to it. And, yeah. And if you're watching back on YouTube, hit the thumbs up. Appreciate you guys. And for podcast folks, appreciate you guys. Leave us a kind review. All right, Goolsby, you just kind of sent me your what we called word vomit. Just thoughts. Just sent me a bunch of thoughts. So offense. Let's start at quarterback. Buckner being, named the starter. And I know you don't want to spend too much time on that because that's more or less a given. What do you want to see from him in this offense this fall?
Well, first of all, everybody's like, oh, it was a given. It was obvious. And the same people that are saying Buckner becoming the starter and it's a given were the same people calling for Drew Pine last year. So I'm glad that we're into the Tyler Buckner era. I think he's the most special quarterback that we've had in years in terms of how dynamic he can be. And I think that like Buckner can kind of bring us into this sort of modern era of college football, what's become in vogue, Mike, in terms of they're like especially in big game environments, like we're going into Columbus. watching a lot of football, it seems like you really need a legitimate element, Mike, of like backyard ball, a little spontaneity from the quarterback position. I think Buckner can really provide that for us. I've seen him grow in confidence. Just even watch that poor kid get interviewed during the spring game, and he's like nervous chatting on the sidelines. And I saw a press conference with him during training camp the other day. He's a completely different kid in terms of the way he carries himself and how he comes across. He looks great. Looks like he's put on, 10, 15, 20 pounds, which makes me more hopeful and less concerned about him getting dinged up throughout the course of the season. Quick delivery. I just think that, Tyler Buckner has legitimate, and along with a few other people, Mike, on the team, guys that should have prominent roles this year, I think he's got the potential to become a star. I really do. I just think I said it last year more than once. I just think he's like an exceptional kid. You look at his, like, he's a great golfer, great student. I mean, he just seems like one of those kids that's just wired uniquely.
So my kind of thoughts on Buckner, and for folks who are regulars of Blue and Gold YouTube, you've heard me say this a bunch, so I apologize. But my thought is that he is going to be wildly talented, but there's going to be I think he's going to be like consistently inconsistent. If and that's not like a major criticism. I think he's just going to try to do a little too much at times. And even in Marcus Freeman's press conference today, Freeman alluded to Notre Dame had a turnover today, and he was asked about it. He said that Buckner was rolling to his right, should have just tucked it and went out of bounds and tried to throw it across his body and got picked off. Like, I think you're going to see some of that from Buckner this fall. But Mike, I think that the good is going to outweigh the bad. And let me say something on Buckner, because I'll see comments on our Blue and Gold message board. By the way, sign up for that $1 for 1 year premium access. You can't get a better deal. I'll see people like, Mike doesn't like Buckner. Mike Singer, that being, not Mike Goolsby. And I'm thinking, and they're like, Mike doesn't like Buckner. He just loves Angeli. These two things are true. I do like Steve Angeli than most of you do. And I maybe am not as high on Buckner as most people are. But I can still really like both. I would say Buckner is a much better. He's the best quarterback on this team. I don't think it's a discussion right now. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of inconsistent play this season, and I don't think it's going to help that he's playing in the horseshoe for the first game. I think you prefer it to be Marshall.
Well, the interesting thing is, what does he bring to the offense? The scheme itself. So we're running that zone read, quarterback to side, et cetera, with Jack Cohn. And like, no defensive end in the country is going to honor Jack Cohn on that play, right? So now Kyron's having to deal with edges crashing, et cetera. So you can bring Buckner back just for that alone. The ability to get out of the pocket and make things happen. I think the splash plays should offset any negatives in terms of turnovers or what have you.
Yeah.
But he's not like a wild card back there. I mean, he's a sharp kid that's been groomed, for over a year now at the position. I don't know. I just see a ton of upside. I mean, I'm legitimately, this is the most excited I think I've ever been for Notre Dame, the kickoff of a Notre Dame football season since maybe when I was playing, since Ty Willingham's first year. So
why is that? Is it largely around Buckner?
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Go watch anybody. Like, when this show's over, we should link Tyler's high school highlight film, in the description or something, Mike. But yeah, like, I mean, we saw glimpses of it last year with him as a true freshman carrying the ball, but like, he was tight. You could tell, and even Lorenzo Styles at times after the catch last year looked a little tight, Mike. Not as loose and not as comfortable just because they're both true freshmen. But Tyler Buckner carrying the ball in high school looked like a 4-star running back. So as he gets more confidence, he knows he's the man. And some of these throws, dude, this is like Patrick Mahomes. Like, there's one just let it run as we talk. But I'm telling you, man, this kid is electric. You could talk about his release all you want. It's quick. I know it looks awkward. I'll cop to that, but it's quick. And just because it's not necessarily pretty, but he can throw off platform. He can throw on the run. And this is him, Mike, playing competent. Under Brian Kelly, he was kind of pigeonholed into this role last year as this gadget guy. He's gone.
Right, that was a state title game.
There's a throw. There's a throw coming up near the end zone where he dances close to the sideline. He's almost out of bounds and throws it. It's like a vintage Pat Mahomes type thing, but he's a better athlete on top of it. So I'm just telling you, man. Yeah, my excitement to answer your question, Mike, is largely built around the fact that we've got a 5-star type kid. What's so funny?
You see Tom's comment here. It says, FYI, Triple H, there's a warrant for your arrest if you enter Montana.
That's fine.
Mike Triple H Goolsby. Dude, you
here you go. This throw. Do you see that? Run that. I mean, I'm looking on my iPhone here. My iPhone 8, by the way. So, but yeah, I mean, that's not a lot of kids that can make that throw.
I think we're going to see here in a second. Let's see.
Let Tyler Buchner. Yeah, watch this. Look at that.
That little. See how he dips down and kind of.
People are saying, "Oh, he's not accurate because he had a couple spotty throws last year." I'm telling you, man. This is potential versus production. I think the potential is high. I think the production is going to be high.
Yeah.
Obviously, the wide receiver room's like depleted, but I think that's going to make Coach Reese the fun thing about all this chatter about we could probably cut that off, Mike, but all this chatter about like the lack of depth at the wide receiver position, what's the offense going to look like? I know it's frustrating and it's concerning, but the more you think about it, it's like I don't know if Ohio State has any idea what to prep for. So it might bite us in the ass long term as you get halfway into the season and maybe you lose another couple guys, to hamstring tweaks, what have you. But starting out, I don't know what Ohio State's preparing for. Right?
I would just let this dude loose.
Yeah, the backyard football thing.
So backyard football.
Yeah.
What does that mean in your opinion, when it comes to Tyler Buchner? Like, what do you mean with like, let's just let him play backyard ball? Like, what does that look like?
So it's like, I'm thinking Cam Newton, Johnny Manziel to a degree where the play. Well, Johnny Manziel did too much of it, and he forced him. He's jumping and doing, all these extra. He's doing too much out there, but he won a Heisman Trophy. Cam Newton won a Heisman Trophy. He's the first pick overall. So if the play breaks down, if your 1 or 2 read isn't there, make some magic happen. Keep your eyes downfield, but you have the athleticism to make something happen. And it's just like having played linebacker, Mike. If a quarterback takes off and picks up a first down, it's debilitating, and it's also like exhausting. It's the most difficult tackle to make in terms of an open field tackle. I just think I'm stoked, dude. I'm stoked, and you are, in terms of this relationship, Mike. The dynamic of you and I, you're always the optimist, and I'm typically more of a pessimistic. Have a pessimistic viewpoint, but I am very optimistic for Tyler Buchner, and I'm excited.
Again, I'm optimistic as well. I'm just not as optimistic as Mike.
Yeah, you like Jack Cohen and Drew Pine and all this other stuff. So Buchner's going to be the man, dude. I mean, since Brady Quinn, we haven't had a legit star at the position, and I think Buchner's going to become a star. I do.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I like the star thing. I think he's got all the potential in the world to be a star. I don't know. How about this? You're more convinced than I am at this point. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You see the potential and you're like, I feel very confident it's going to translate to the field this fall. I'm just not as sure. That's all it is.
Yeah. Well, and I think the strength of the defense or the strength of the team at this point is certainly the defense. So if the kid does throw a pick every other game, so be it, man. Again, is the juice worth the squeeze, right, Mike? You've heard this expression being down in Florida. Is the juice worth the squeeze? In Tyler Buchner's case, Absolutely, definitively, unequivocally, yes.
All right. Anything else on Buckner? We okay to move on?
Did I say I'm excited? Did we cover that?
I think so, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, we can move on.
All right. What about some of the guys around him?
Let's talk about Mayer.
Two-back offense, potentially. You had jotted down in your notes. What's on your wish list for, let's table the receivers for now. Running backs and tight ends. What's on your wish list for those guys?
Well, when I sent you this text 2 months ago before you put the kibosh on, we had plans last episode. I wanted to go over this wish list. So one of my wish lists, my second bullet point is Mayer stays healthy, loses weight. I said he's got all-time great potential. Yes, I still wish that he stays healthy. I do still think that he's got, again, back to that star thing. When all of us became Notre Dame fans, so many of us, the Ricky Waters, the Rocket, the Michael Stonebreakers, the Todd Lights, like somewhat household names. I think, gosh, I hope with this Freeman era we can get there with some of the five-star elite type talents. But I wanted Mayer to lose weight because he was overutilized last year as a route runner. I mean, you go back to week 1 against Florida State, I think he had like 15 targets and he actually dropped a couple balls. It was wet out there. I know he had his gloves off that game, but I think he was just freaking gassed, Mike, in terms of the overutilization and overdependency of him as a pass catcher. So I want him to lose weight just from a conditioning standpoint. The opposite happened. I think Mike's put on a couple pounds, which makes me think, is he going to be used more so as an inline blocker this season? And you could make the argument or present the argument that may be the case, because if you're an NFL GM or a team looking to draft him in the first round next year, what boxes hasn't Michael Mayer checked? I don't think he has the length that's so in vogue at the NFL level. Like Kyle Pitts, the first round draft pick for the Falcons out of Florida, has like a 7-foot wingspan or something. He doesn't have that, but he hasn't been a great inline blocker throughout the course of his career. None of that's Mike's fault. They've got him split out wide half the time. But I think that if you put him in line, he can check that box for the NFL. And that's a little bit of a Goolsby conspiracy theory there, Mike, by the way.
Ooh.
Why did he put on, 7 to 10 pounds?
What
and he's still going to get it. If he 255 or something like that. But I remember I talked to him during the spring and I was like, are you going to lose some weight? And he was like, yeah, I want to lose 6 pounds. And he ended up putting on over 6 pounds. So is he going to be asked to be more of an inline guy this year, check that box in the NFL? He's still going to get his catches. Inevitably he's going to get his catches. But if you go into like a week 1 game plan and we're game planning around Mayer as a slot receiver, a displaced tight end, now he's in line, it may confuse the defense.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tight end weight. Give me like a range of what tight ends usually weigh in at. Like what is normal?
240.
Okay. Mayer played 6'5", 235 as a freshman. That's a big dude, right?
No, he's 260 something now.
Sophomore year, 6'4.5". Did I say 6'5"? Yeah, 6'5", so we shrunk. 6'4.5", 251. And then as I put up on the screen, Mike, 265? Dang, that's a big mofo.
It's a big kid.
He's
God,
not that far off from being a freaking offensive lineman.
So can I tell a funny joke real quick here? Shout out to my boy Billy Palmer, brother of Jesse Palmer. So Billy played tight end for us. He was a classmate of mine at Notre Dame. And back in that era, we're running this like quasi option thing where they wanted like 280-pound tight ends. No joke, no exaggeration. And Billy got up to like 285. And he used to make this joke that at practice, the coach was going to ask him to go in motion and then stop behind the guard and basically turn him into a guard. Like, stop right there, Billy. Like, Milligan, get out. Billy, put your hand down. Like, turn him into a guard because he's 285 pounds. But yes, Michael Mayer's a big boy. 6'4" guy, 265 pounds, playing in the slot. You know, I mean, it's doable, but it's being 265 isn't conducive to playing in the slot, right? I mean, like
Right.
as you said earlier, you can love Buckner and love Pine and Angeli. I mean, both things can be true, but I just feel like they're going to use him as a move guy, kind of an H back in that Tommy Tremble sort of role, but actually throw the ball to him.
Okay.
And I mean, he's the world's best. What's the word I'm looking for? The word just escaped me. Decoy. Sorry, Mike. You could just, decoy. Draws a linebacker's attention, draws a safety's attention. But I don't know if we're going to see him in the slot as much. And that begs the question, who are you going to see? Is it Holden Stays? Is it Eli Raridan? Somebody else?
My boy Canberra wrong. That's my boy.
Okay.
All right.
So what was the question, though, about – did we get a question about – oh, never mind. You mentioned that earlier. Oh,
running
let's
backs.
move it. Yeah, two-back offense. So with this, I watched your pod with Ashton and Tim the other night. You were talking about a lot of 12 personnel, 11 personnel. So the body types on the field's one thing, but the formation's another, right? And they're obviously related. But I imagine you could see some like 22 personnel where you have Eli or Holden Stays displaced as your slot receiver. You've got Mayer in line. You've got Estime and Tyree back there. And on either pre-snap, you can motion Tyree out into a slot role, or on the snap, he's in a one-on-one scenario with a linebacker.
You know what gets me going, Mike? The thought of like a 22 personnel, right? So you're coming out with your two backs and a tight end. Or what would two running backs, two tight ends be? 21? Wait.
No, 22.
22. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. I'm having a brain fart. That'd be
Well, you're drinking
21.
whiskey.
Okay. So two running back, two tight ends set out there, and they go five wide. Now that's getting me going. My jollies are getting rustled a little bit.
Oh, boy, dude. You need a minute?
But seriously, like that's throwing a defense off. It's like, all right, two running backs, two tight ends.
Mike, if you do grow a mustache or trim down the mustache, I want to hear you say live on air, my jollies are getting rustled with the mustache. Okay. No, but to your point, Mike, again, the personnel. So when people think 22, they think of like a Jumanji backfield, right? Big fullback, big, double tight ends. It doesn't have to be that, right? So then that's the gosh, and I'm also excited to see if we can hang on to Coach Reese after this year. What he did last year with Kane Madden at guard, starting a four-string left tackle to put together an offense the way he did, gets tons of credit. So now this year he goes into the season with half a dozen wide receivers, two or three of which don't even shave yet. So, but yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of interesting formation personnel groupings, and just so folks know, this is a little sprinkling of like college football, the NFL. Defensively, you've got some coach up in the box that's calling out the personnel grouping that the offense is calling, and then the defense response. We bring in nickel, we bring in base, we bring in dime. So if they if we come to the sidelines after the first kickoff in 22 personnel, they're going to be out in base, right? So now I can move Raridan out on one-on-one as a linebacker playing slot, you break open to empty, so that creates an advantage for us because they've got base personnel and we've got kind of multiple athlete traits out there. So that's going to be really fun. And I have no idea, dude. And the silver lining is I don't understand how Ohio State could really have a full grasp of what this offense is going to look like week one.
Wide receivers, I mean, it's not hard to list off some of the names. You got Tobias Merriweather, who's an exciting young freshman. You got Deion Colsey, Lorenzo Styles, Jaden Thomas, that trio from the 2021 recruiting class. You got Braden Lenzy and Joe Wilkins, kind of your senior folks. Matt Salerno, you would throw in that too, the former walk-on. That's 6. Is Lorenzo Styles, did I say him? Yeah. That's about it. Avery Davis is down. Am I missing anybody?
Which is a huge bummer, losing Avery. And but back to our point, Mike, I'm just realistically, you can't go into a game with 5 wide receivers just from a conditioning standpoint. Like, you can't do it. So you're going to have to see 22. There's people talking about switching positions. I don't see that happening. Like bringing
Xavier Watts.
That ain't going to happen.
You don't think so? I mean,
he's too good. Dude, he's too good of a safety. He's too good of a safety.
But if DJ Brown, Houston Griffith, and
it's going to have to be somebody younger. If they do make that switch, let's say if they bring one of these young corners over, name one, Mike, right? Perfect. They bring over Jaden Bellamy to play receiver. He's not getting the ball thrown to him. That quarterback's going to have zero trust in him. He's a set of fresh legs out there running shitty routes. That could happen, but it's not going to be Xavier Watts. He's too good of a safety. And then our cupboards are going to be bare at safety after this season, so he can see the writing on the wall. He's a hell of a safety.
Okay. Yeah, so, cupboard is kind of bare.
I think the move is, me personally, is I'm willing to bet that Mayor's going to be doing more inline blocking this season. I'm rooting for Eli Raridan just because I think physically he's different, dude. And I've heard great things about Holden State. So that guy's out in the slot, somebody else out there. But I mean, if you could see more 1 and 2 receiver sets, especially with speed over the top like a Lenzy, it'll be interesting. We have no idea.
How concerned are you about this receiver depth or lack thereof? You mentioned even the Watts thing. I was all on board with that, but you make a good point. Then the safety position is an injury away from, being.
I know I'm a pundit, Mike, and it's like, so I have to, give an opinion, but I got to play for Lou Holtz in that Japan game, Mike, that you dug up that footage over in Japan. So if folks aren't aware, back in 2006, they took a team of ex-Notre Dame players, and we played like a Japanese – they played tackle football over there, their Pro Bowl, their all-star team. We played them and beat them, and your boy almost won MVP had I scored on that interception. But, we were awful, dude. We didn't have a quarterback that could throw. Ambrose Wooden had been playing corner, and 3 days before the game, they moved him to quarterback position. And Lou Holtz is like, we're going to win the game. He's like, we have no choice. So it's like, going into that game, was I concerned about the quarterback position? Absolutely. But you got to go win. So yes, I'm concerned about the wide receiver room, but you can't if you're on the team, you can't let that creep into your psyche. So yes, I'm concerned from a conditioning standpoint, but Tommy Rees is going to earn his paycheck this year.
Go. All right. We're going to have to just, Mike, can you give me a minute on the offensive line?
Yeah. No, it's a great point, because the last time that we saw Coach Rees, just continuing on there, was a bowl game against Oklahoma State. While the cat's away, the mice will play. Coach Kelly's gone. Coach Rees throws the ball 64 times. So we're not going to get a chance to do that this season. So I think with the lack of depth, I think it's really going to force Coach Rees's hand and force him to run the ball and lean on the offensive line. Okay. And I think that Audric Estime is one of those guys. I saw him interviewed a couple days ago, bro, and he seems supremely confident. He's cleaned up his body a little bit in terms of bringing in his waist a little bit. I mean, that's another kid where it's like, man, he could be a star. He really could.
We have some comments here on YouTube about, what has been said about, or is Watts moving to receiver? This is what Marcus Schumann said earlier today. He was in blue 26, meaning his jersey, but he's also in white 4 being the defense. He did both sides of the ball today and did a really good job. So it seems like Watts, who you got to remember, spent, a season in a half as a receiver before moving over to safety. So, or rover, whatever it was at first. And now he's over at safety. So, I think kind of having a foot in both pools will kind of help them or help Notre Dame because, they're not
Yeah, it
super
helped
deep
Avery
at pace
Davis. It helped Avery Davis, right? I mean, I'm so anti that. And the ultimate team player, but at a certain point in time, I mean, he's been in the program long enough where I think that Xavier, and it may be because he's an Omaha kid, but I feel like that he's maybe deserved the right to become a little bit more selfish and just be like, this is the path I want to focus on.
Okay. Did we talk about the offensive line, Mike?
Well, I just think that Coach Reese is going to have to lean on it, obviously. And again, it goes back to stars. Blake Fisher should be a star. Joe Alt should be a star. Absolutely. So I think, and there's another interesting note. When Tyler Buckner was interviewed in a press conference, he was like, he said something to the effect of he let the ball go a count too early and that the clock went off in his head. And watching practice back on film, he's starting to realize I have more time than I might just instinctually anticipate. So that tells me the offensive line is doing a great job. So it should be definitely be a strong point. It's just who's going to tote the rock behind him between Tyree, Tyler, Estime, who's really going to. Yeah, well, he's got to labor him. I mean, he tore that in the spring game, right? And I've had that surgery. I've had that surgery twice. And that's a 6-month rehab. Now, granted, I'm not a running back. You're a linebacker. I mean, you hurt your shoulder. Jesus, I swear I'm wearing deodorant, folks. But you hurt your labrum reaching out like this. That's kind of. And then when he did it in the spring game, he was stiff arming somebody. So if he can keep kind of his arms within the framework, he can play. But I'm not banking on it. But with a kid that's built like Estime, he's gotten into better shape. Literally, he's gotten into better shape. I think he's probably worked on his actual conditioning to become a bell cow guy, and then Tyree's more of your home run guy.
Dude, doesn't Estime look like freaking Leonard Fournette in some of these clips?
I wouldn't say he's as explosive as Leonard Fournette. I mean, Leonard Fournette was the 4th pick in the draft, bro.
I said looks like. Come on, Mike. All right. Let me pop this clip on for you. Look at this dude.
Yeah. No, he's way.
I mean, goodness.
Far more slippery than you would anticipate. You saw it in the spring, like where he's giving guys a dead leg and stepping out of tackles because the kid that's 230, 240 pounds comes up to you. I mean, you're bracing for it. And then if he can step out of it and leave you, that's impressive.
That's for YouTube folks. That is not a guy that I would want to have to try to tackle.
Dude, that's why you're a possession wide receiver, dude. You're not about that life.
I'm more of a Kane man right now. But I feel like Estime could pop that freaking football in his arm. All right, Mike.
No, he's probably the most physically impressive guy. I mean, top 5 easy on the team. Easily.
He didn't make that freak list. Did you see that? Bruce Feldman.
I heard about it. I didn't actually read it.
I didn't either. It was Foskey, Cam Hart, and
Riley Mills.
Good choices. But Estime, come on. Anyways, all right, Mike, we are 44 minutes in, and we're about halfway through our script. So we're going to have to go a little rapid fire.
Okay, fair enough.
So I'm going to give you like 30 seconds on each. Emergence of an end opposite of Foskey. That's a big point for you this fall.
Absolutely. Another guy that could potentially be a star. We already saw him in the Hangover, jersey reveal thing, right? Kind of. But yes, in order for Foskey to really truly become that top 10, top 20 pick, he's going to need somebody opposite him to take some of the pressure off. I think the entire defensive line, the mix is going to be interesting. And I'm hoping to see a kid like an Anye get in the mix as well. But yeah, I want to see if so much attention is being paid to Isaiah Foskey by the opposing offensive scheme, it should free up somebody else. And then right? And then we get back into like the Keon Keeley conversation. So it's like, oh, wow, we had a top 10 draft pick. We had a top 20 draft pick at defensive end. That should serve in recruiting. So we need Isaiah Foskey to become a legitimate household name, Bednarik type kid this year, top 20 pick. That's like what I'm looking for. And if we can have a Robin to his Batman, Mike, perfect.
Mike, Will, and Rover. What's your starting three against?
Well, it's not my starting three. Isn't I was talking or texting with Tim Hyde last night, so he was saying it's going to be JD at Mike. No, excuse me. JD was going to be at Will, and Bauer was going to be at Mike. So is Maris cleared to play, Mike? Do you know this? He's cleared to play. He says he's cleared to play, but they say he's not cleared to play. Is that what we're at?
Don't know.
So just verbal diarrhea here. I think Maris can be a stud at, again, another kid that's got some star potential. He's so long and rangy, almost plays linebacker like a free safety. The last time we saw him getting real minutes, he was a bit of a liability before he got hurt assignment-wise, but you could see the ability was there. So Maris at Will, Sneed's your Rover. I think that Kaiser is a little bit limited athletically. Like when I see Kaiser, I see JD Bertrand, they all kind of look like the same guy. I know that Kaiser's made a couple plays in his career, like big splash plays, but down to down, I'm not like wowed by him, but he should be a serviceable player. But I think like these nickel sets is really going to be interesting. Like I think you could slide Marist over to Mike in nickel. I think you could bring Kaiser in to play Will. I think that the linebacker, especially talking to some of the kids during spring, I think the linebacker title, you're a Mike, you're a Will, you're a Rover, is just a title. I think when it comes to actually when the ball snap, I think they're all going to be interchangeable in terms of exchanging responsibilities, et cetera. I mean, I think Freeman loves the blitz. Back to Foskey. Leave Foskey with his hand in the ground, please. That's like number one on my wish list. Let's stop bringing him inside on third downs, playing with a three-man front, having him play inside linebacker. But, I mean, what kind of a hellacious blitz could you bring if you've got Marist and Botello and Prince Kali, who's got a concussion, but Bauer coming? If we're going to go into these nickel, anything outside of base, it's going to be really in the name of pressure. So we've got a ton of bodies back there that have a lot of explosive ability. And I'm stoked to see that. I really kind of want, I'm throwing Botello in there. I really want to see him carve out a role and make a little niche. I don't know if he's ever going to be a full-blown starter, but a kid that's as explosive and as nasty as he is should find his way onto the field.
All right, Mike, I need one sentence from you. I need that starting three. I need that starting three in a sentence.
My ideal starting three?
Yours. Just yours, not what you think the coaches will do. Just your favorite three. Sentence.
Sneed, Kali, Marist.
Sneed, the true freshman.
Who gives a shit, dude? He put on 15 pounds. I mean, think about athletically. Get real.
Well, who am I to say? I'm the one drinking the seltzer cocktail hour. I can't make
Sneed's gonna play this year.
Oh yeah,
I can promise you that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think Maris could. So it's fine. Then I'd put JD. I'd put JD at Mike. I'd put
you
Prince
said
at
what
Will.
you said. You said what you said.
Well, okay. This is my 1A. I'd put JD at Mike, which isn't ideal because he's tiny in person. JD at Mike. Marist at Rover, and I'd put Prince at Will.
Okay,
that's my 1A. I want length at the Rover position.
Cam Hart, expectations for this fall. Can he take that jump to being a man? He's got all the measurables and what?
Hell yeah.
To a first round pick because like he looks like $1 million.
I think that last year he was still feeling his way through the position a little bit. He was just a fraction of a step slow on so many little plays where he could have just tipped that pass. So another year playing the position. And then he sees who's the kid, the corner that the Jets drafted,
Sauce.
Sauce Williams. So, I mean, they're the same dude in terms of like you look at their measurables, height, length, weight, speed. They're basically the same kid, and that guy was top 10, top 15 pick. So, the bar has been kind of set. There is a precedent there. So, yeah, I'd like to see him make more plays and just really, really take ownership of being an elite corner. And like I said, I just felt like he was a little bit tepid at times. And hopefully this year he just believes what he sees and makes plays.
All right, Mike. One more thing on the defensive backs, just between Clarence Lewis, Brandon Joseph.
Ugh. I want to see young kids play, man. Again, potential versus production. So like we know and I'm not selling Clarence Lewis out because I'm not throwing him under the bus because he got sold out in that Oklahoma State bowl game in terms of he had no help, and they gave him half a field to cover, and throughout the course of the game, it kind of broke his spirit. So I feel for the kid there, but I don't want to see Houston Griffin. I don't want to see DJ Brown. I want upside, and I want some of this young talent and some of that persona, some of that attitude, some of that moxie. I want to see it.
Okay. Boundary corner.
Period.
Boundary corner, Cam Hart.
Sure.
Field corner. Who do you got?
One of the young kids.
Mickey.
Sure. Mike, I do not care. Just give me somebody else.
Mickey was on three's preseason first team defense for all freshmen, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a position to play early, we've said it multiple times on this show. It's running back and it's corner. There's not that much to think about. Let your ability take over.
Free safety. Who's replacing Kyle Hamilton? Or who do you want? Is
Joseph playing strong safety?
I'm going to be honest with you, Mike. I'm not the right person to ask.
Well, I think Joseph's more of like an in-the-box type guy. Okay. I can never remember his name, the converted receiver, number 11, the kid that can fly.
Ramon Henderson,
sure. Athlete, speed. I mean, put Watts back there. I mean, Watts is such a quiet kid, and he's a quiet persona, but he covers a lot of ground, and he's a super physical kid. But, I mean, I've even thought, Mike, that you could take like a Houston Griffin or a DJ Brown and put them at Rover. I mean, they're fairly sizable guys. I mean, Jeremiah Wusu-Koroma is 208 pounds? I mean, DJ Brown's 205. It's just, it's a new era, man. And, our best football is going to be ahead of us. And if those young guys are anywhere close, play them.
But you're off the Clarence Lewis bandwagon.
Yes.
He's the same class as Henderson and Watts, but he's played a lot more.
I just struggle with like fifth-year seniors that aren't like a Bo Bauer. Like Bo Bauer's been around forever. It's like, why haven't you become a legit starter yet? Like you just keep kind of like, okay, well, you're going to be first. Bauer. I'm a little bit off the Bo Bauer bandwagon.
Drew White. We had that favorite.
Drew White was my least favorite. Yes. And I have nothing, but I just, again, you look at Drew's body type and it was just like, man, we're bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Okay. All right. Sorry, defense. We spent like 15 minutes on you. I'm sorry. We spent a lot more time on the offense, but I feel like you're just kind of used to that.
But the strength of the defense is the defensive line, the pass rush, the interchangeability. I mean, we've got some monsters.
That helps the secondary a lot.
Yes. So let kids with more ability go play back there. Period. End of story.
Okay. All right. We're going to get into some questions, and then we're going to get out of here, okay? No one dropped a freaking super chat. Shocking. Old Mike. No one wants to drop a super chat for old Singer. Rob says, is it safe to say we will not have a number one recruiting class until recruits see results on the field first? I'm going to kind of take Rob's question and spin it a tad, where I think he was kind of going with this. will Notre Dame not have a number one recruiting class until they like win something big? Like, do they need to, win a college football playoff game, win a national title to go have a number one recruiting class?
No. This may come as a shock to most folks, but I don't think a lot of high school kids watch a ton of football. As somebody that trains them, they just don't. I mean, they'll watch the big games, but I mean, I'm convinced of it. I mean, how many high school kids are going to watch every snap of – how many 4 or 5 star kids are going to watch every snap of the Ohio State Notre Dame game? I promise you that it matters, but it doesn't matter as much. I think to the question, we won't have a number one recruiting class until we start paying kids. Done and done.
All right, we are going to now go to the message board at blueandgold.com because those are the people who have paid that $1 for 1 year of
ballers, dude.
Yeah, great peeps. So let me pop up on YouTube here. So this is the website. You type in blueandgold.com and look at this. Site launch special. It says 1 week only. I'm going to let you know. We've been at On 3 since January, so it's definitely not 1 week only. I don't know why that says that. But it's a year for $1. Read the terms and everything because your second year won't be $1. I mean, we can't run a business at $1 for every year. But it's really it's a great thing. So you're going to have to head to the site and check it out. But we're going to go to the message board now. Let me pull this up. Aerofan says, thoughts on longtime commitments who decommit after receiving interest, both financial and non-financial, from other schools. I think we kind of touched on this earlier in the show, Mike.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts, but it's being in a long-term relationship with somebody. It's like you're not married; they can break up with you. I mean, it is what it is. You don't hold it against them, Yeah.
Can you and Goolsby start an NIL collective with the super chat so we can get Keely back? I mean, shit, we don't even get any super chats as it is.
Apparently not.
Which freshman do you think will make the biggest impact / are you the most excited about? Mine will Tobias Merriweather. It's kind of the easy one. Jaden Mickey has been already the surprise of the 2022 recruiting class with how good he's been so early on. Obviously, I'm excited to see Steve Angeli in some warm-up pictures. That's about it for me, Mike. Who are yours?
I'm going to say Eli Raridan.
Yeah.
Just because if folks have ever met him, and I'm 6'3"-ish, I'm a tall 6'3", and Eli makes me feel small, and he's a great basketball player. He can do a little bit of everything. And then given what we have at the wide receiver position at the time, I think he's going to – and I've heard from people that he's been told, you're the next Michael Mayer. Like, you're the next stud Notre Dame tight end.
He is. I was at practice last Thursday. So he and Stays looked fantastic.
I love to hear it.
They look like $1 million. So
that's my pick to click as far as freshman. Diaper dandy, dude. Diaper dandies.
There's always one that just kind of comes out of nowhere. Blake Fit or not Blake Fit. Joe Hall last year, Clarence Lewis the year before, that just ends up playing a ton. Maybe it is like a Stays. Maybe that's it. So Mike, before we started recording today, I told you that this question was coming. Who has the bigger upside playing college football between Thomas Fidone? You trained Fidone, right, Mike?
I did for a time, yeah.
So Thomas Fidone was, I want to say he ended up a 5-star tight end, signed with Nebraska.
I turned him into a tight end. He was a receiver, to be fair.
He got hurt last year? ACL?
He's been hurt twice now.
But is he healthy going into the
sucks
season?
For the kid because the kid's probably the hardest worker I know.
Healthy though? No?
I can't speak. I know he's not currently, I don't think he's going to be healthy to start the season, but
okay.
You look it up online. I don't know.
So at Raridan, tore his ACL in basketball last season, but you're familiar with both players, and your point on you being 6'3" and you feel small with Raridan, I just measured in at 6'2" this week without shoes on.
Good for you.
He makes me feel very small. I thought I was 6'3", but apparently I'm 6'2". Raritan is just a large human being.
He's big, dude. I told you he's like Ivan Drago from Rocky. Like the first time I met him, I was like, "Holy hell, man!" Like, so who has more upside? I think Eli does from a traditional perspective in terms of like he can be an explosive blocker. You can move him out in the slide. As a traditional tight end, but as far as Fedoni running routes, he's almost unguardable, and he has a 6'11" wingspan with 4XL gloves. So even if he's covered, he's still open. Like his catch radius is absurd.
All right, we got some funny YouTube comments I got to get to, but one more from the message board. AB10 asks, and again, folks, you got $1 for a year. You could be on here too. If you have any questions, drop a YouTube comment, shoot me an email, msinger@blueandgold.com, shoot me a tweet. What's my, I don't know what my Twitter is. You have to just find me. AB10 says, what is Goolsby's prediction for the Ohio State score? And then what does he think about Buckner's ceiling in this year, maybe? In this year in terms of stats?
I can't give you a score. I mean,
don't give the score prediction. We got to do that the week of.
Yeah, I have to do a little bit more research. But in terms of Buckner with like stats, I'd say he probably picks up 700 yards on the ground, running the ball.
Leading rusher?
No. Well, call it 600. Yeah, say 600 yards. I mean, I think like 50 to 70 yards a game. I'm telling you, dude.
I think he's like a team in rushing. I really do.
He's like a 4 or 5 guy. I mean,
didn't Book lead the team in rushing one year?
Perhaps.
Does that sound right? I don't know. I think he might lead the team in rushing.
So I mean, I think 8, 9 interceptions, 7. And this is I'm just completely off the top of my head. Yes, 7, 8, 9 interceptions. 15 touchdowns, maybe throws for 15 touchdowns, runs for another 3, 4, 10. 5. Sure,
5, 7, 10, something like that.
Yeah, I just don't think we're going to see design. I don't want to see design runs from Tyler. That's where we go back to the backyard football element, where the spontaneity of it, and just let him go play.
I disagree, man. I run him like a wild man,
dude. Yeah, but Kelly always did that with his quarterbacks, those design runs, and that's when the kids get hurt. The kids get hurt on design runs. They don't get hurt on spontaneous runs. I'm just telling you.
Okay.
Because then that quarterback gets hit like a running back because everybody's flowing to the ball defensively with their gap scheme. But there is no gap scheme for when a kid just takes off and runs.
Sure. Okay. All right. To the YouTube comments, we got to go through these quick. I got to be very specific here. How happy are you to be out of the Brian Kelly era, Mike?
I was thinking about this like maybe last night. Yes, I'm happy to be out of it just because I didn't like him as a recruiter, and I have some inside info that yes, he was a lazy recruiter.
That's not inside info. Everybody knows that, but I'm sure.
Now they know. But now they know, Mike. Now they know, right? So this is like frustrating during when it's happening. You're like, gosh, man. And I thought that I still think he's a pompous asshole. And I'm like a blue collar kid in it. And Brian Kelly's whole energy never resonated with me ever. So in that regard, yes,
you always said that. So it's fair.
I'm glad that he's gone in that regard. However, like I'm less concerned about going into Columbus week 1 because of the culture that he helped create.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to come down too hard on Coach Kelly, because he did leave the program in very good shape, but on a personal level, yeah, I don't like the guy.
Okay. Tom A asks, Goolsby, if I send you an action photo of you, will you sign it and return it from my man cave?
Yes.
Tom, you better provide that return shipping. That's all I got to say. Hit him on Twitter at GCA Football. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah, GCA.
Mike, what is your body fat right now? You don't have to answer
Stupid questions. I have no idea, man.
Is the room Goolsby is in getting smaller, or is Goolsby getting bigger?
Yeah, so I get my balls busted for this all the time. So this is like the 3rd floor of the house. It's like basically would be an attic turned into an office. So like the ceilings are short.
Great back.
And I'm up.
Your neighbor's got a great yard.
I got a great yard, man.
You can't see it.
I got well, next time. Yeah, so there's spare bedrooms and stuff to do it in, but this is just set up as an office. So whatever, man. Yeah, somebody was like, "Is he doing it from the back of a fifth wheeler or whatever, or for a semi truck?" Anyway,
All right, we got a super chat. Let me see.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you.
Susan's kicking off the NIL, Mike.
I have some like sounds I can play to celebrate our super chat. These all suck. I don't have the DJ air horn thing on this new software we got. Susan says I'm ecstatic for Goolsby's take on Brian Kelly. You did drop a famous line, "F that Brian Kelly guy."
I just said "F that guy."
Many F bombs for the algorithm reasons, but what do you got to say about Brian Kelly? Last thing before we sign off.
No, that's it, man. It's over. Like I said, I think he left the program in a better place than it was when he got there. I just wish that he would have been. I think Notre Dame is at its best, and this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. When, I'll be 40 in September. When I fell in love with Notre Dame was when they beat Boston College in 1990, they beat Florida State in 1993, lost to Boston College, and ended up losing the national championship to Florida State. Like, I fell in love with Notre Dame because they deserved to win. And then Notre Dame back then was like that sort of blue collar, steel town, Lou Holtz sort of dynamic. And it was more relatable, middle America. And I just feel like that Brian Kelly, Notre Dame would do well to get back to that type of, I don't know if it's marketing or branding or whatever, but we became a little bit pompous. We became a little bit holier than thou. I think with Coach Freeman coming back in, and he's about to become a star. So I'm thankful for Coach Kelly for building the culture, but to find a more relatable coach, a man of the people, if you will, Mike, like you and myself, I think that'll serve us well.
Okay. When you say the culture he built, you're talking about the culture of winning?
Well, like the brotherhood and all that, like the accountability, I think is a big thing. Like the day in and day out, the workman-like approach that Notre Dame football players have, the accountability, the professionalism, that's him. That's Coach Kelly. Now, when we came out in big games, we played a little bit puckered up. So that's another thing that I'm hoping to see is like, do we rise for the occasion against Ohio State? Because Coach Kelly said on record multiple times, like, Coach Kelly wouldn't treat this game against Ohio State at the Horseshoe any different than he would treat a game like in the middle of the season against Toledo, in his mind, because he's an asshole. He's not going to give credence to what makes this game, college football, so special. It's games like this. He's not going to acknowledge that. Whereas I hope the team does and Coach Freeman does, like, acknowledges, like, this is a special thing, and go let your nuts hang, man. Go take it.
I think we got to sign off after a
yeah. It's my locker room speech.
That's
dude.
one of Goolsby's best lines is, let your hair down, but I like when he says let your nuts hang instead of let your hair.
We're gonna start making T-shirts, Mike, and that'll be the first graphic.
You've been on that for a while. Let's do it.
Hey, man, just telling you.
All right, folks.
All right, buddy.
I'm Mike Singer. He's Mike Goolsby. Appreciate everybody. Hit the thumbs up. Go to blueandgold.com. $1 for 1 year. Go check out all of our other YouTube shows. We're going to have a fantastic lineup for this fall.
Spread the word.
I love
Spread
YouTube.
the word.
It's such a fun job, like, to just do YouTube stuff. Of course, I do a lot of writing, but I enjoy spending time doing these YouTube videos. So, yeah, subscribe, like the video to help support us. Drop a super chat next time, folks. Susan's the only one who did. Next time, you guys got us. Yeah, head to blueandgold.com. And as always, we'll catch you next time.